Welcome to the deep dive. We're here again to really get into some fascinating sources and pull out the most interesting, maybe surprising bits of knowledge for you.
That's the plan.
And today we're digging into an ancient mystery, one that has some really, I think, profound modern implications.
Definitely.
We're looking at biblical theology, specifically this idea, that the resurrection, we often think of it as way off in the future.
Right, very end.
But what if it's already started? That's the core question today.
Exactly. Our mission for this deep dive is really to see how different parts of the Bible and also what early Christians thought kind of weave together.
Making a coherent picture.
Yeah, a unified picture of resurrection and revelation. We're focusing on these specific groups: the raised saints, the crowned elders, and the bride of Christ.
Okay.
The goal is just to pull out the key ideas, some surprising facts maybe, so you can get a good handle on this really deep topic, but, without feeling totally lost.
Right. Make it accessible, but still deep. So where do we start with this mystery? It feels like we need a solid clue.
We do. And the first one is pretty startling. It's right there in the Bible, Matthew chapter 27, verses 51 to 53.
Okay, Matthew 27. What happens there?
Well, picture the scene. It's the moment Christ dies. The temple veil rips top to bottom.
Wow.
The earth shakes, rocks are splitting, and then this. The tombs were opened, and many bodies of the saints who had fallen asleep were raised.
Wait, raised? Like physically?
Yes.
Yeah.
And coming out of the tombs after his resurrection, they entered the holy city and appeared to many.
That is genuinely shocking. I mean, you read it, but you don't always stop to think what it means.
Exactly. And what's really striking, as our sources emphasize, these weren't like ghostly figures or apparitions. No, the text implies these were faithful people, bodily raised. It's presented as this visible sign.
The sign of what?
Of the new creation, like Christ's death and resurrection just kicked the door open to a whole new reality.
Okay, so these raised saints are like the first proof.
Kind of like the first fruits. That's the term Paul uses later in 1 Corinthians, right?
Yes, first fruits. Like the first taste of the harvest to come.
Precisely. A foretaste of the general resurrection that's promised. It's powerful evidence.
And this isn't just out of the blue, is it? Does it connect to older prophecies?
Oh, absolutely. This whole event has huge eschatological significance for the end times.
Right.
It really echoes Daniel's prophecy, Daniel 12, where he talks about many of those who sleep in the dust will awake.
Okay, so Daniel foresaw something like this.
It seems so. And it also points forward, anticipating that great resurrection trumpet sound we read about in 1 Thessalonians and 1 Corinthians.
The last trumpet.
Yeah. So it all reinforces this idea that actually resurrection isn't purely future. It has, in a real sense, already begun. These saints are the first evidence.
Okay, so that's incredible evidence right there at the cross and resurrection. But how did this happen to them specifically? Our sources mention Christ doing something else around this time?
They do. We need to look at Paul's letter to the Ephesians, chapter 4. Paul talks about Christ's descent.
His descent.
Yeah, he says Christ descended into the lower parts of the earth, and while there, he led the captives and gave gifts to men.
Led captive the captives. That sounds, paradoxical. What's going on there? Is that just poetry?
It's more than poetry, it seems. The traditional understanding, held for centuries, is that this descent was Christ entering Sheol or Hades.
Okay. The realm of the dead, essentially,
Yeah.
like we see in Peter or Acts.
Exactly. But crucially, the point wasn't for him to suffer more there. No, it was to declare his victory.
Victory over death.
Over death, over sin. And importantly, to free the faithful who were waiting there.
Free them, like the Old Testament righteous.
That's the idea. Free them and lead them into glorified life. And the strong suggestion is that maybe these saints raised in Matthew 27,
They were the ones he freed.
they could well have been the very individuals Christ liberated during that descent. It fits together.
And when they appeared in Jerusalem, it wasn't just like Lazarus coming back to his old life.
No, that's a key distinction. It wasn't resuscitation back to mortal life. It was glorification, a transformation maybe similar to Christ's own resurrection body.
Wow. Was this a common belief early on?
Oh, yes. Foundational for the early church. You have figures like Irenaeus, a major early theologian, writing that Christ descended to seek out the patriarchs and raise them from the dead.
So he explicitly connects the descent and raising.
He does. And Tertullian, another important voice, he also asserted Christ went down to Hades specifically to bring souls up.
Okay, that paints a really powerful picture of Christ's work. It corrects maybe a misconception some might have.
I think so. A common misconception might be that everyone who died before Christ just sort of waited passively in sleep or some intermediate state.
Right.
This view suggests something much more active. Christ went, he conquered, he redeemed, and he glorified a group of the righteous immediately, bringing them into this new kind of existence.
That changes things. And thinking about this bodily glorification, were there any hints of this before Christ? Any precedents in the Old Testament?
That's a great question. Because yes, the sources point to some really fascinating examples. Think about Enoch.
Enoch, Genesis 5, walked with God, and he was not, for God took him.
Exactly. He was not. He didn't seem to die in the normal way. And then there's Elijah.
Right, 2 kings, the chariot of fire, taken up by a whirlwind into heaven.
Again, no conventional death recorded. These are pretty significant moments in the text.
So they didn't die, they were just taken.
Bodily. That's how they're often interpreted, almost like theological previews or precursors.
Precursors to what Christ would inaugurate.
Exactly. Types of this bodily glorification. Hebrews chapter 11 specifically says Enoch was taken up so that he would not see death. It implies a transformation, not just disappearance.
And the church fathers picked up on this.
Oh, yes. They saw the significance. Ephraim the Syrian, for example, wrote about Enoch and Elijah being assumed in their bodies into heaven as types of the resurrection to come.
Types.
Okay. Even someone like Augustine, while cautious, saw these as exceptional cases prefiguring the future glorification of all saints.
So if Enoch and Elijah experienced this kind of bodily assumption,
then it makes the idea of the Matthew 27 saints being raised into glorified bodies less isolated.
it connects them.
It does. It suggests that what Enoch and Elijah prefigured, these raised saints, and maybe others we'll discuss, were the first wave actually experiencing it fully after Christ's victory. It's like they got an early pass into this bodily heavenly participation.
Before the general resurrection at the end of time.
Right. Even before that final trumpet sounds for everyone.
That really does shift how you might think about heaven and the afterlife. And it leads us nicely, I think, to the book of Revelation.
Absolutely. To the throne room scene.
Exactly. Revelation chapter 4, verse 4. John sees this incredible vision. 24 elders sitting clothed in white garments and golden crowns on their heads. They're around God's throne.
A majestic scene.
It really is. But it's not just symbolic imagery, is it? Our sources say these elders, they aren't angels.
That's the common scholarly consensus, yeah. Based on several clues in the text itself, they're understood as glorified human beings.
Okay, what are the clues?
Well, first, the crowns. The Greek word is Stephanos.
Stephanos.
Which typically refers to the victory wreath, the crown of righteousness given to faithful believers. Think 2 Timothy or 1 Peter. It's not the kind of crown usually associated with angels.
The victor's crown. Okay.
Then they're white garments. White robes in Revelation consistently symbolize the righteousness of the saints, the redeemed.
Like in Revelation 19.
Exactly. And they're sitting on thrones. Jesus explicitly promised thrones to those who overcome, who remain faithful.
Revelation 3, right. To him who overcomes.
I will grant to sit with me on my throne. And finally, they seem to have a priestly role, offering the prayers of the saints.
Like in Revelation 5, which connects to Peter calling believers a royal priesthood.
Precisely. So when you put all these clues together, the crowns, the robes, the thrones, the priestly function, the interpretation points strongly towards glorified humans.
And who might these humans be?
Well, many respected scholars, names like Mounce, Ladd, Beale, they affirm this view. They see these elders representing the faithful redeemed. And it's quite possible, even likely, that this group includes those saints raised in Matthew 27.
And maybe even Enoch and Elijah.
Potentially. They represent the full company of the redeemed who have already entered into this state, enthroned, crowned, robed in resurrection glory.
Wow. Okay, so we have saints raised at the resurrection, possibly precursors like Enoch and Elijah, and now these crowned elders already reigning in heaven. This brings us to another key concept, doesn't it? The first resurrection.
It does. Revelation chapter 20, verses 4 through 6.
Right, where John sees souls who had been faithful and they came to life and reigned with Christ for 1,000 years. People often debate this as purely future.
Often, yes. But based on the flow we've been tracing, our sources suggest a different reading. This first resurrection isn't necessarily only a future event.
How so?
It arguably began with Christ's own resurrection acts.
Yes.
Talks about him being the first to rise and now reigning.
Okay, his resurrection kicked it off.
And it continued, crucially, with the raising of those saints in Matthew 27. They came to life in a glorified way. They are part of this first resurrection.
So the first resurrection is like an ongoing process that started then.
That's the perspective. And this ties directly into how we understand the millennial reign, the 1,000 years.
Which also might not be just a future block of time.
Exactly. In this view, the reign isn't solely future. It's an ongoing reality that began with Christ's ascension and enthronement and continues now until his final return.
Like Hebrews says, he sat down at God's right hand, or 1 Corinthians says, he must reign until all enemies are under his feet.
Precisely. Think of it like a new kingdom has been inaugurated. The king is on the throne. His rule has begun, even if it's not fully visible or consummated everywhere yet.
So saints are reigning with Christ now.
In a hidden yet real way. That's what Colossians suggests. Your life is hidden with Christ in God. But when Christ is revealed in glory, then you also will be revealed with him in glory.
Okay, that definitely makes you think differently. What does that imply for you listening now, for your own faith, your present reality, knowing this reign might already be happening?
It implies we're living in a very significant age already.
And if that reign has begun and the first resurrection has begun, then what about the final trumpet, the big moment in 1 Corinthians 15 or 1 Thessalonians 4?
Good question. In this framework, that final trumpet isn't the absolute start of resurrection for everyone.
It's not the starting gun.
It's more like the grand revelation, the unveiling, the moment when what has already begun for Christ and these glorified saints becomes universally visible and applies to all the faithful, living and dead.
The parousia, the second coming.
Exactly. It's the public manifestation. The saints we've discussed, the elders on thrones, they're already in glorified bodies, perhaps, just waiting for that final glorious unveiling.
This really culminates in Revelation 21, doesn't it? The vision of the end.
It does, the ultimate climax. John sees the holy city, New Jerusalem, coming down out of heaven from God, prepare as a bride adorned for her husband.
The bride of Christ.
Yes. And connecting this back, think about marriage. Jesus himself and Paul in Ephesians suggest that earthly marriage points to a greater reality, the ultimate union of Christ and his church.
So marriage finds its ultimate meaning in that relationship.
That's the idea. And in this eternal state, this New Jerusalem, there's no need for a physical temple building because, as Revelation says, the Lord God Almighty and the Lamb are its temple.
God himself dwelling with his people.
And crucially, God's people are the city. Revelation 21 identifies the bride, the Lamb's wife, with the New Jerusalem.
So the people are the place.
In a sense, yes. The resurrected and glorified saints, the completed church, become the very dwelling place of God. That's the profound end goal.
This has been, wow, quite a journey. Pulling these threads together, it paints a really unified picture, doesn't it?
It really tries to.
Starting with precursors like Enoch and Elijah, then that shocking event in Matthew 27 with the raised saints.
Flowing into the crowned elders already reigning in Revelation.
And seeing the whole church ultimately as the bride, the New Jerusalem. It all seems to stem from Christ's own work.
His descent, his resurrection, his ascension. These acts didn't just save individuals, they launched a whole new age of creation.
And even historical abuse, like the temple's destruction in AD 70.
Within this framework, that's often seen as marking the visible end of the Old Covenant system and the definitive public unveiling of Christ's kingdom that had already been inaugurated spiritually.
So it makes sense of a lot of different pieces.
It attempts to provide that coherent eschatological vision. And it means we are living now, right now, in the time of Christ's inaugurated reign. We're just awaiting that final trumpet.
Awaiting the full revelation.
And holding on to that incredible promise from 1 John. We know that when he appears, we shall be like him, for we shall see him as he is. That's the hope. Until then, the saints already in glory reign with him, and the church continues her journey.
So as we wrap up, maybe a final thought for you to ponder. Consider the depth of this living in an age where the resurrection isn't just future hope, but an already begun reality. Saints are already reigning. What does it truly mean for your life right now, today, that God is continually actively making all things new, as Revelation declares? Something to think about.
Definitely.
And thank you for joining us on this deep dive.